YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Young Mustard, and I am back with the top 10 players at each position going into the 2020 NBA season. And if you missed my last video where I talked about the top 10 shooting guards, make sure you go and watch that video. A card should be popping up on the screen right about now. And today we're here to talk about the top 10 point guards going into the NBA season next year. This has been a pretty interesting series, especially when I look at some of the responses underneath the comment section. But you guys, make sure you comment your opinions down below. This is the ending. Make sure you guys also drop a like if you enjoyed it, and also a playlist will be popping up at the end so you can watch each and every video for all the rankings that I have for each and every position. And let's hope that this list holds up, because the centers list already collapsed due to Boogie getting hurt, but it is what it is. Let's go on with the top 10 point guards in the NBA. Now at number 10, I have Chris Paul. Chris Paul, CP3, one of the best passers in the league, can orchestrate an offense better than almost anybody throughout NBA history. I mean, this is a guy who is still a really capable defender, can pass at a very high level, and I think being with OKC next year and wherever else he goes, if he gets traded, or should I say when he gets traded, I definitely think his numbers will take a leap in certain areas due to the fact that he's not sharing the ball with such a ball dominant player in James Harden. Whether he stays in OKC for the year or gets traded to other places, I definitely think his numbers will rise a bit. But I do believe health will wear him down. I think the health is only going to get worse at this point. And I also do believe he's declined a bit. I think defensively, he's not as great as he used to be. Even though he's still very capable of playing great defense, he's still not as great as he used to be, or even a few seasons ago with Houston. And I definitely think that as a scorer, he's gotten down a little bit. You saw it in the playoffs as he was very inconsistent at times outside of Game 6, but regardless, still a top 10 point guard. But moving on to number 9. At number 9, I have Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry last year definitely did struggle in the regular season, but in the postseason, when the time was right for him, especially in the finals, he stepped up and he showed out. Now next year, I don't expect the Toronto Raptors to, be an amazing team or an elite team, and I definitely think a lot of that does fall on the shoulders of Siakam and Lowry to lead that team to a potential postseason seeding. But I definitely do think that Kyle Lowry will have a relatively solid season, could be an all-star, maybe might not be an all-star, but he can shoot the three ball at a really high level. Last year was kind of a down year for him. Still one of the better defenders on this list, and I have to give him credit for that. And he is a really great passer, really underrated passer. His passing ability, one of the more overlooked parts of his game, and he is definitely number 9 for me. But moving on to player number 8. At number 8, I'm going with Trey Young. Trey Young, man, one of the more entertaining players during the second half of the season. I mean, this guy exploded and made the Rookie of the Year race so entertaining. It was so close between him and Luka. Even though I went with Luka, I wouldn't have been mad if Trey Young won it at all. This guy was amazing in the second half of the year. One of the better passes on this list. I definitely think there is a chance, a small chance, that he can be a 10 assist guy next season. I also think that John Collins' production has been getting so much better, and last year showed a lot of improvement, and a lot of that was due to the ball handling and playmaking ability that Trey Young displayed last season. So I definitely think that Trey Young is a top 10 point guard, and I think that next year he will get better, adding a player like DeAndre Hunter to help him on the wing with defense, because we all know that's not Trey Young's strong suit. He can be a defensive liability. I definitely think that will help. The addition of Cam Reddish and all those other players should help Trey Young's efficiency. Hopefully his shot selection gets better. And honestly, if I could just give him 3 tips to get higher on this list, and the reason that he's not higher than some other guys: defense, obviously, shot selection needs to definitely get better, and the turnovers. If he can fix those 3 things, he could definitely even enter the top 5 sooner rather than later. But moving on to player number 7, I have Mike Conley. Mike Conley, year after year, just finds ways to be overlooked. I mean, he is definitely one of the better defenders at his position, can score rather efficiently, can shoot the 3 ball, shows up in the postseason. I mean, just look at what he did against the San Antonio Spurs last season in the playoffs, is consistent with every single opportunity that he's given. And I think in a backcourt with him and Mike Conley, they will be one of the more interesting and one of the better backcourts in the NBA next year. But the only concern that I do have for him is health, as he did come off of an ACL injury and has had other injuries throughout his career, so I definitely think those are pause for concern for him. But yeah, top 10 point guard, one of the more overlooked players in the league, definitely has the contract, but doesn't have the respect that he deserves. But moving on to player number 6. At number 6, I have the one and only Ben Simmons. Now, I know everybody kind of just hates on Ben Simmons. It's just the thing to do. I laugh at the memes too. I even make my own. This guy is a walking meme with how he just doesn't attempt three-pointers. But he is still one of the better players in the league and is a top 10 point guard and deserves to be number 6. And if he can fix some of those flaws in his game, such as the lack of aggressiveness, such as the terrible shooting from the free throw line, and just the lack of shooting period from the field, from the three-point line, from the mid-range. I mean, this guy just doesn't attempt anything outside of the restricted area, and that is a huge problem, especially when you're sharing the court with Joel Embiid. But I still think that his impact on the defensive side of the ball, along with his playmaking and his size, which gives him a huge advantage in the NBA today, I definitely think that those are more than enough reasons to warrant his spot on this list. But moving into our top 5, at number 5, I have Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker last year had a career season, and I think in Boston next year, with less controversy and players like Kyrie Irving being gone and also Al Horford leaving, I do think Kemba Walker will assume the position of the leader of the Boston Celtics, assuming that guys like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown don't have like some kind of huge breakout season. But I definitely think a guy like Kemba Walker has a lot to prove that he is a winner and he can get the job done and lead a team to the postseason consistently year after year after year. And I definitely think that Kemba Walker will rise up to the plate. And even though I'm not a huge fan of him being in Boston and Boston's scenario and how they're handling a lot of those young guys, this is a guy in Kemba Walker who can facilitate better than a lot of players on this list. And though defensively he isn't that great whatsoever, and I would argue can be a defensive liability due to his size, I definitely think what he provides offensively in terms of facilitating and handling the ball, spacing out the floor and scoring, and definitely when you look at his numbers, he warrants being in the top 5 for next season. But moving on to player number 4, I have Russell Westbrook. Now I know this may piss off some of the fan base of Russell Westbrook, but after what we saw last year, can I place him any higher than the guys that I'm going to mention later on? I just can't do that, especially for player number 3. But when you look at Russell Westbrook, definitely one of the better athletes that the NBA has ever seen, can facilitate just as good as a lot of people on this list, arguably the best facilitator. And though defensively he doesn't try all the time, when he wants to, can be one of the better defenders on this list, and I would comfortably say even can be the second or even the best defender when he does try. But that's always the problem, he doesn't try. But the reason I don't have him higher is for a multitude of reasons. For one, he turns the ball over at a historic rate. I mean, just terrible turnovers up and down everywhere you look with this guy, which ties into his poor basketball IQ, which results into terrible shot selections, especially from the three-point line. He can just shot chuck and shot chuck and shot chuck, a pure volume shooter. And also, let's be honest here, after what we saw in the postseason last year, I cannot give him a pass. I cannot give him a pass for the terrible performance that he just showed in the postseason last year. When you just had an MVP candidate in Paul George and you lose to the Portland Trail Blazers and get outperformed by the player that I have at number 3, which wraps up Russell Westbrook for number 4. Moving on to number 3, the guy that outplayed him, Damian fucking Lillard. My guy, Dame Dollar. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was very critical of Damian Lillard after he lost to the New Orleans Pelicans, but man, he made up for it last year in the playoffs, and I gotta give him credit. I mean, this is a guy, along with CJ McCollum as well and Nurkic, but he is the main leader on that team and is leading the Portland Trail Blazers, who don't even have the most talent over the past 5 seasons, but he is consistently leading them to top seeds, near 50 win seasons, and even 50 win seasons in the case of last year. And he is doing it year after year after year, getting past the first round at times, second round at times. I mean, this is a guy that is always overseeding a lot of people's expectations in the regular season, and he can score very well, a very efficient score, or as efficient as he can be based on his situation, can shoot the 3 ball, can facilitate really well. Obviously, when it comes to his defense, he's terrible. He is arguably the worst defender on this list, but I definitely think that when you look at what he does offensively and how he has led that Portland Trail Blazers team and what he did in the postseason, exceeding everybody's expectations and taking his team to the conference finals, along with CJ McCollum as well. I'm not going to absolve CJ McCollum for what they did, but I definitely think for those reasons alone, you gotta have Damian Lillard in the top 3 point guards in the NBA. But moving on to player number 2, I have Kyrie Irving. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be saying, whoa, timeout. You got Russ below Dame because of how bad he played in the postseason, but you got Kyrie above Damian Lillard. Didn't Kyrie play terrible in the postseason? Well, yeah, he did. Kyrie did play bad in the postseason, but it's not all on Kyrie's fault why the Boston Celtics struggled last year. I definitely think in the postseason, that's all on Kyrie. Don't get me wrong, he played bad and he needs to own up to it. But I do believe that Kyrie as a first option is just not going to win a series like the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not going to lie to you, he just can't do that. And I definitely think that as a second option, even though he's not going to be the second option next year, but moving forward as a second option to Kevin Durant, he will definitely excel and show us the Kyrie of Cleveland that we all love to see. And I definitely think that a lot of people put too much blame for what happened in Boston last year. You got Gordon Hayward coming back way too early and being put in the starting lineup. You got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's minutes getting fucked up because Gordon Hayward is in the starting lineup. You got Jaylen Brown, who's very inconsistent and definitely showed that last year. And then you got Jason Tatum thinking that he's Kobe Bryant. I mean, come on, it was not all Kyrie, but I think next year in a new environment, being at home in Brooklyn, I think he will lead that Brooklyn Nets team to a top 5, even maybe top 4 seeding in the Eastern Conference, which is very top heavy. And if he can do that, that should warrant him being number 2 on this list for me. But finally, moving on to the last player at number 1, I have Steph Curry. Now, come on, was there really ever any doubt that Steph Curry was going to be number 1? Easily the best player on this list, top 5 player in the NBA, can facilitate just as good as anybody on this list, even though the assist numbers don't show it due to the system that he's in Golden State. It's the system, let's be real. He is the system of Golden State. He is the heart and soul of that team. He represents everything that that team culture is about. Not only is he the best scorer on this list and the most efficient scorer on this list, but one can make the argument that he is the most efficient player that the league has ever seen. And I think that next year when you look at Steph Curry, I think that he will put himself back again in the MVP conversation where he rightfully belongs. And all the people that praise Harden for having the carry job and having this load on his back over the past couple of years, I think you better praise Steph Curry. Keep that energy for Steph Curry because I think he's going to be an MVP candidate once again. And I'm not going to say he's going to win because that's going to spoil the video that I'm going to make. But I definitely want people to keep that exact same energy when Steph Curry shows us once again why he is not only the best point guard in the NBA, but why he is arguably the best player in the NBA just on his impact alone. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say he is the best player, but he's going to show us why a lot of people thought he was better than LeBron James. But that concludes this series. Make sure you drop a like down below. If you enjoyed all of these videos, there's a playlist that should be on the screen right about now. Also, you guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to be notified after each and every video that I post. Follow me on social media. The links to my Instagram and my Twitter will be in the description box. Y'all have a great day. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. Peace.